You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.
Welcome to Volatility Views, the premier program for volatility traders. Each week, we'll take a deep dive into the world of volatility with in-depth analysis, trading activity reviews, strategy breakdowns, cutting-edge education, and much more. We'll also bring you exclusive conversations with the traders, researchers, and asset managers who are reshaping the volatility landscape. If it involves volatility, then you'll find it on Volatility Views. Volatility Views is brought to you by CBOE. CBOE is one of the world's largest exchange holding companies, and we're inspired every day to innovate some of the industry's most powerful products, technology, and solutions. We're the industry's leading force driving access to global markets, a better trading experience, and powerful data and analytics to inform better strategies. We're committed to engineering new ways to help our customers realize their potential and navigate the marketplace of tomorrow, today. Visit CBOE.com. That's CBOE.com to learn more about our expanded offerings. And now, it's time to take a deep dive into the world of volatility. It's time for Volatility Views.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Volatility Views, the premier program for volatility traders. My name is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as, of course, from the ever-exciting Options Insider Radio Network. You guys know the drill. You know where to find us. The mothership, the flagship, theoptionsinsider.com, or the app, the best places to go to get the full breadth of our network, the full 11 years. If you really want to dive deep, caution, that's a deep dive. If you really want to dive deep, those are the best places to do it. Of course, you can get the most recent stuff, iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, all of that, all those great outlets. And if you want super recent, as in it's in your ear holes right this second as we're doing it, Foul Views, live every Friday, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern, via Mixlr, Mixlr. So we got you all covered. People want to go back in history. People just kind of want it on their own schedule. People who want it right now, in their face, in their ears right now. Got you all covered. Mixlr is the place to get the live stuff. Of course, however you listen, live after the fact. If you're going back, if you're listening now, however you get it, make sure you hit us up. Questions, comments, insights, pearls of wisdom. We do enjoy hearing from all you folks out there. And joining me on the old Vol Views show today, we've got the greasiest of meatballs, Mr. Mark Sebastian. Let's see what Costco he's in today. Mr. Meatball, welcome back to the show, sir.
Hey, good to be here. What a day. A little funky. Weird, wild day, but I'll tell you, man, it is quite the trading atmosphere here right now.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and let's get to it, because it is time for our volatility review.
It's time to break down the latest developments in the volatility trading world. It's time for the Volatility Review.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Vol Review. This is indeed the portion of the program where we break down the week that was, and indeed, in many cases, still is, from a vol trading and trending and analysis and unusual activity and all sorts of weirdness perspective. And we are recording this, streaming it live, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern, right here, middle of the session on Friday the 13th. Auspicious Friday the 13th, and it's appropriate we get a little bit of weirdness in the market on a day like Friday the 13th. Some people argue this is the day the Templars were rounded up, back in, 1307 along. That's where Friday the 13th comes from. Other people just lump all sorts of other reasons on. Either way, funky day, and we're seeing some funky action in the markets as a result. Most of the major indices slightly down on the day, at least right now as we're recording. S&P pretty much slightly unched to the downside, a little bit more than that. And of course, all this red on the screen doesn't mean any green in the vol space, though. VIX Cash taking a little bit of a breather. We've been at lofty levels for a while, so it takes some movement to make things stay lofty. And today, not so much. VIX Cash off about a handle, or pretty close to it, right around a 17.5, which I gotta admit, I'm kind of liking for my crystal ball pick. A little more downside would be perfect, but I'm okay with where we are. Of course, we had a little bit of earnings popping off before the bell this morning as well. A lot of financials. Spoiler alert: the market didn't seem to like a lot of what they had to say. Names like Citi and some others off a bit on the day. So a lot of things going on. But Mark, it's been a weird week, kind of as you alluded to. The last time we were doing the show, it was all talks about trade war. That's where all the vol was coming from, and all the tweets hither and yon about escalating the trade war, escalating the tariffs. This week, we saw China kind of dialing back the trade war. We even saw Trump making some surprise, maybe conciliatory type tweets on that front as well. But then we replaced it with real war in terms of missile attacks on Syria, and all of a sudden Russia, Syria, all that back in the headlines again. So I guess we take one faux economic war, we replace it with a real war, and we get some vol, at least until today when all that's coming off. So it's been a weird week and a weird day. What's been catching your eye out there, sir?
Yeah, proof yet again that war is bullish. We are sitting right at the 20-day moving average for the S&P, and we're not moving around. Second day in a row. We were up nicely yesterday, down a little bit, but vol seems to really be coming off. They are slamming vol futures. The VIX is getting smoked, and this is as the S&P is a little bit red. The Dow is down, the NDX is down. Everything is getting just myrtleized. I'm kind of surprised at the price action here, but we've got VXX and down almost 4%, and the S&P is flat. Maybe about to go green. The VIX is down 6%. It's down 1.13%. It looks like it might even get into the 16s. We had the financials report. They're down big, but doesn't seem to be mattering much to the market. Kind of a smacking of everything getting smoked. Kind of weird. There's a decent odds that VXX could be below 45 by the end of the day, maybe lower. I'll tell you, if we get an afternoon push higher if we get a green push higher in VXX, we could see a just crazy drop in the VIX futures and VIX the way they're pricing themselves right now. I'd also comment we're back into a full-on contango. VIX is 1740.
We need like party fixtures, and we need like some poppers to go off when we get back to contango.
April is 1790, May is 1816, June is 1830. So we've got a full-on bullish formation in VIX. Just one of the crazier things I've seen, and it is what it is.
Yeah, you probably would have assumed they might have come for this maybe a little bit earlier in the week, depending on some of the noise we saw that wasn't really materializing. Yet they decided, for a variety of reasons apparently, to just come for it today. You're right, because the markets are off a little bit. There is still uncertainty. The earnings weren't exactly blowing the doors off. Not a time when you think maybe let's all come for the vol collectively, but you're right. We're back in contango. We're seeing things trail off. VIX Cash right at the 17.5 level right now. Our old friend VXX was 48 coming in this morning. Now it's about 45.5. So it's floating around 47 earlier. Yeah, 45.5 out there. So all those people out there who've been, I'm not saying it's here yet. We're in contango. That's a first step. Got to get there first. But all the people who've been hoping for that contango to come back, all the people who've been hoping for a little bit of nice erosion, a little bit of juice, a little bit of calmness to settle out in the VIX land. You're at least getting the first step along that path today, which should bring a smile to your face. Of course, our old friend VVIX floating along. It's still shy of the 100 handle, right around 94 or so. Was trending right around 90, about 97 or so coming into this morning and coming off again today, which is interesting. But again, VIX to the downside, but not quite the size move perhaps that you'd expect for a VVIX, let alone at these levels. So we're trending down. Remember, for a long time, VVIX was kind of bouncing in that channel right around 75 on the downside to right around maybe 125 on the upside. 100 would be nice in the middle there, a little bit slightly elevated, and now we're shy of that, floating toward about 20 handles off that downside. We'll see how low we can get in VVIX. If we settle out around here, we can see VVIX coming in quite a bit. And you're right, sir, with the futures, that nice contango. It's been a while. It's been a while since we've seen you out there, so I know a lot of people will be welcome for that. What's it been like for you? Relate to our listeners a little bit. Obviously, you guys just launched the Vol Fund not that long ago. These are interesting times to be launching a Vol Fund. What's the last week or two been like for you guys?
Yeah, it's definitely been a little funky the last couple of weeks. The realized vol was completely underpriced, and now it appears that they're guessing that movement is about to stop. And we could see vol just collapse because that is the way they're pricing this stuff. Like, we're about to see a serious collapse in volatility. A little strange to see, but after watching vol stay so high so long, it'll be interesting to see. We've talked about the fact that these vol products can see returns just die in an instant. I'll be kind of fascinated to see how things move around over the next week or so. Does the market make a real run higher or a climb higher? And does vol collapse? Do we sit here and vol collapses? For us, obviously vol has been so up and down and kicky outy. It's been hard to figure out whether you want to hedge or not. But I'll tell you, the premium sales that we got off in this environment have been great. And, at least we've got that going, which is nice.
So we got vol has been murderized. We got vol is kicky outy. We got some good,
Kicky
some good descriptions over there. That should be the name of a new fund you launched, the Kicky Outy Vol Fund. I guarantee you, no one's taken that. So there you go. That's at least open for claiming out there on the vol space. Speaking of claiming some vol, you guys are actually doing that today. VIX options moving a decent number out there. We're finally shy of the 1 million mark out there in ADV, right around 975,000. So slowly but surely creeping back below that 1 million mark. When you get some more craziness on the trade war front or on the war front, we could see those numbers go right back up. Today, though, looking pretty robust. 624,000 contracts on the tape as of a little bit past noon central here. The one shoe time zone, of course. So it looks like we may be hitting that ADV or getting pretty darn close to it, at least for later on in the session. The rest of the week actually was surprisingly light, given some of the action and activity we saw going on out there. We saw Thursday doing right about 337,000 contracts. Wednesday, about 550. Tuesday, the other hefty day of the week, right around 650,000 contracts. And Monday, the laggard, only a paltry 289,000 contracts. All of you watchers of VIX call-to-put ratios out there were floating in pretty low levels. We were about 2.3 on the last show, down to 2.2 now. So not a lot of love out there for VIX calls, at least right now. You can see perhaps recent performance could be a reason why that is certainly the case. Looking at what people are loving, though, out there in VIX options land, in terms of the hot, the sexy, the very, very active VIX strikes, the big positions people have on out there in VIX land right now, our top 10 for hot VIX land. Number one with a bullet, the April 22s. These are all pretty low. Again, reflecting OI has come off a little bit out there. About 226,000 takes number one on our list. Usually we'll see that be 450, 500, 600, some odd thousand contracts for number one. And this week, only about 226,000 is enough to get you on first place on VIX land, showing how spread out some of the paper is and also how much some of that big stuff has come off a little bit. Number two, the May, probably our most optimistic strike on our list this week. The May 37 halves doing about 207,000 contracts there for number two. Number three, we break down below 200K for the Ape 20s, 192,000. Number four, the ever popular Ape 15s, 185,000. Though the puts, I'm talking about the puts, of course, the first put on our list. I'm sure some people would love to see those Ape 15 puts come get some juice right now. They're at about a nickel. So not a lot of love for those bad boys out there, even though there is some size open on the old strike. Number 5, the APE 25 is 173,000. Number 6, hot on its heels, the APE 17s with about 172,000 contracts. Number 7, the second put on our list, the APE 13 puts, about 152,000 contracts open there. Number 8, the first and only June on our list, the June 20s, about 140,000 contracts open there. And number 10, the third and final put on our list here, the APE 20 put, doing about 120,000 contracts open on that strike. Total about 8.5 million contracts open out there, about 5.9 million on the calls and about 2.6 million open on the puts. Mark, it's been an interesting week out there. Anything catching your eye from the big VIX mothership perspective out there this week?
Yeah, we started to see some pretty decent vol sellers today. Big trade that we saw today was we saw this, you'll like this, the April 15-16 put spread. Papers nickel bid on and bought 15,000 for a nickel. Just a lot of buyers, a lot of sellers of premium. A shocking amount of VIX sellers today. Starting to see some kind of 1 by 1.5. Some of those ratios starting to go up. You'll like this one. Customer did the May 1720 strangle versus the 22 calls. That's an old one. Did that 88,000 times, crossing 50,000 of them. So that one was serious. The May. So they sold the 1720 strangle, bought the 22 calls. They do that as kind of a hedge trade, and that is a kind of a fascinating spread. Those are the big ones I've seen today.
Yeah, we saw that one going up. It was the May 20. Looked like it could have been May 2022s, but you're right. It was actually the 1720 call spread. May paper doing the 17 puts and the 20 calls versus the 22s is perhaps the kicker, doing it 84,000 times on that bad boy, which is kind of interesting, shall we say, for size ratios out there. Speaking of size, we also saw what looks like, I guess, it could be a funky 1 by 5 going up today. So if you were thinking, 1 by 2 is not enough of a ratio for you listeners, maybe not even 1 by 3, nay, not 1.4, 1 by 5 is the way you want to go. Looks like, Mark, I'll be curious if you saw this one go up today as well. Looks like we saw paper doing, looks like maybe buy 1, selling 5 of the July 20 42.5 1 by 5 vertical, doing the July 20s 10,000 times. Excuse me. For about 232. Looks like they're picking those up right a little bit close to the offer, so it could be, looks like some buy-in action on there. Again, you never know. Some of these executions out there in VIX land could be misleading. And then you got 50,000 of the July 42 halves going up for 43 cents over there as well. So it could be a buy 1, sell 5 scenario. If that's the case, then they did the whole thing. They got a pretty whopping 22.5 handle spread for a 17-cent debit because if they are indeed blasting those out, I know a lot of people would be a little concerned by having net short 5 units, but then again, 42.5, that takes us pretty much all the way to pretty close to where we spiked in the height of the madness of February 5th and 6th there. So our friend here probably thinking if he gets all that way, he's still got some room to run past that before he's at his break-even point. So an interesting one, Mr. Meatball. I'd be curious if you saw this one, and B, if it is buy 1, sell 5, 22 and 22.5 handles apart. What are your thoughts on such a crazy broad size ratio vertical here in VIX?
That's actually exactly what it was. It was they bought 1, sold 5, collected 17 cents, 10,000 times, 10,000 by 50,000. They were really, they were clearly, they're clean on this one through 50, a 50 settle in VIX. So I get it. It's not one I would do, but I do understand the approach.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that instantly your hackles on the back of your neck are going to go up. You say, oh, naked short 5 units. But then you start looking at it a little bit, and you're right. They have some room to run on the upside for that one. Still, we've seen crazy things. We've seen things spiked around 80 in the cash. The futures get up there pretty lofty. So we've seen crazier things. And I think being net short that many units would just leave me tremendously uncomfortable for the duration of that trade. But I could see the, dare I say, logic underscoring it as well. You guys like your ratios in VIX land? You like being naked short units to the upside? Let us know right in. Send us your ratios. Maybe you're not 1/5. Maybe you're more a 1/2 or 3 kind of guy. Let us know. Maybe you like to go the other way. It used to be, sell 1 buy 2 was the trade. Sell 1 buy 3 was the trade. Now it's apparently buy 1, sell 5. So interesting stuff lurking out there. Anything? I don't know, Mark. I know we don't have Mr. Rhodes got called away to I think some last minute crypto thing here going on. So I know we haven't had a chance to chat about the weeklies. Anything? Do you watch the weeklies out there in VIX a lot? Anything catching your eye out there?
I do, but I have not seen anything crazy go up in the last couple of days. So unfortunately, I don't have anything great to report.
It's that's why we like to toss it to Mr. Rhodes for his 28-minute VIX weekly, or Russell's weekly rundown, but we'll make do here this week. Let's move on instead, I think, to a product a lot of you guys like to trade. Talking about it earlier, our old friend VXX, like I said, off right around 45 and change out there right now, off about 3.5% or so today. So taking a nice little drub, and it's averaging pretty decent volume. You guys know VXX does some paper. It's averaging about 388,000 contracts a day out there. Today, doing so far about 200,000. So it's like it might be on track to hit or maybe even exceed that ADV out there, and a lot of strikes are lighting it up. In terms, Mr. Meatball, if I were to make you go out on a limb right now, just wild guessing. The April weekly 38 half puts expiring on the 27th, doing 10,000 contracts today. Interesting out there in VXX. I'll have to dig into those a little bit. While I'm digging into those, it looks like paper bought them for about a dime. So someone liking some April 27th 38 half puts out here in VXX. Perhaps a sign of things to come. But that said, Mr. Meatball, aside from that crazy trade out there, if I were to make you go out on a limb right now, all your funds are on the line. You guessed this wrong. To guess the number one options position in VXX land, sir, what dare say you think it could be?
I think it's still the 10 puts in 2015.
These April 37 half puts are certainly on their way, expiring the 27th. But that's only 10,000. There's 175,000 open still of these Jan 10 puts in VXX. Somebody loved this strike way back in the day. Apparently, they have not closed out there yet. I guess those things are trading. Let's pull up really quick and see. I'm guessing they're, shall we say, a pale shadow. Yeah, they're 3 cents at a nickel. There's a whopping 110 going up today. 1,350, though, trading of the Jan 2019 15 puts. So getting a little bit of juice out there in VXX downside today. But yeah, 3 cents at 6. Oh, this went up at 3 cents at 6 cents now. So catching a little bit of bid in these Jan 2019 10 puts. They still dominate the chart. So whoever put those on way back in the day, and they were much higher levels than they are now, listeners, deciding apparently to keep those bad boys on. The number 1 through 3s are pretty much the same. We got the Jan 2019 15 puts with a little bit more this week, about 80,000 or close to it. They were about 75,000 last week. And the Jan 2019 5 puts with about 70,000 open there. So that kind of strip, the 5, 10, 15 put strip in Jan, is where apparently the lion's share of the action is out there in VXX. You got to go all the way down to number 7 to find the first call on the list. Here's a fun one, Mr. Meatball. If you had to guess what the largest open position call is in VXX right now, what do you think it is?
Oh, I'm going to go out on a limb. Let me see. I'm going to say the the June 50s.
Not bad. A little closer to home, actually. The 845s. Doing about 45,000 open on that strike. So they should perhaps scramble to cover, given what we see going on out there today. Looks like that's pretty much not a lot of calls on the list. There's the 845s, and the Jan 2019 50s actually have almost 40,000 contracts open. So someone has some long-term bullish exposure to VXX of looking to see when those expire. when those were put on. A total about 3.5 million contracts open out there in good old VXX. Let's move on. Do a little rundown of some of your favorite VIX ETPs. I know you guys are always looking for this kind of thing. SVXY, again, a pale shadow of its former self. Still in rally ho mode today, up nearly 2%, or a whopping 21 cents out there, right around 11.87 out there in SVXY. This is a name that's still averaging about 45,000 contracts a day. I kind of wonder if a lot of that is still maybe boosted from the pre-change numbers, and that'll continue to drift down. Either way, doing only about 9,500 contracts today. I can't imagine people are still that much in love with SVXY options that they're slinging 45,000 contracts a day. I could be wrong, but just judging by your sentiment, what you guys have sent into us, I know a lot of you out there, SVXY has certainly lost its luster, and I can't really argue with you. Number one out there is still these kind of mysterious Jan 2019 25 puts that were opened quite some time ago. Excuse me, have been open for some time, and yet continue to trade. Let's just see if we can get. There's only about 1,000 trading back then. Now they've been open for quite some time, and they whoever opened those up could have had many more opportunities to close those bad boys out over the intervening last month or two, and yet has chosen not to for whatever reason, as they continue to remain our number one position out there. Mr. Meatball going to play the same game with you here for number two. Number two, I will tell you, is a call in SVXY, and I won't go any farther than that. Just so I don't want to muddy the waters for you. If you had to guess the number one call position in SVXY these days, what do you think it is?
What is it? The 30 calls or something like that, or the 25 calls in like June or something like that, or in Jan? I forget exactly what it was. You say it every week, and every week I tune out.
Well, now that's how I'm making you tune in by guessing. But yes, you actually remembered well. The Jan 25 calls. I think those are probably a legacy position probably as well, about 29,000 contracts out there. Let's see. The funkiest one, the Jan 2019 5 calls. Have a nice 15, almost 16,000 contracts open. So a lot of legacy positions open here. Total OI, though, is much smaller than it used to be, 670,000. It's not even a million contracts open out here today. Let's do a really quick check. It's kind of nice, Mark, I know, just to kind of say the word earnings again. We've been talking about so much macro nonsense for the better part of months now. What's going on with the trade war, what's going on with Trump's tweet of the day, what's going on with the Russia investigation, what's going on with the Syria and all these other issues. And there's so much variability in that macro stuff that it's kind of nice to sink your teeth into some nice earnings volume. We had some financials popping off. I know a lot of you are waiting. The season really kicks off for a lot of you guys next week with Netflix. I get you. I hear what you're selling there. But this today was financials, and like we said, not getting a lot of love here on the financial side. Citi taking on the chin off a little over about 2.2%. Got down as low about 69.80 so far. Today, hoping got about 73 on the upside, 73.30 on the upside, 69.80 on the downside. So not loving what they're seeing out there in the financials, and yet not conspiring for a major sell-off out here today as well, which is kind of interesting. Looks like some of the indices may actually be retracing a little bit to the upside. So let's see, maybe by the end of the show, in terms of broad indices, maybe we can even finish with some green on the screen. We shall see. I don't know. Mr. Meatball, are you as excited as I am for the commencement of earnings season next week? I know you don't trade a lot of earnings, if at all, in any of your funds, but just for the, shall we say, the sheer micro nature of it, it's a little bit of a palate cleanser.
Well, it's nice to see something that actually matters moving markets as opposed to all the garbage we've been dealing with. Feels like we may be done with a lot of the macro feel, at least the way we're trading today. VIX is acting like it badly wants to have a 16 handle. And I think there's a decent chance, you're right, we could, right now we're S&P's back up, NDX is back up, the Dow's still down, but that's almost entirely from XLF. Right now, as I'm looking at markets as a whole, the energy sector is up 1.5% on oil. The only one that's really red is XLF, that's down 1.1%. Utilities are up, the consumer stuff is up, even the XLK is up a touch in the industrials. So everything up except for the financials. And if the financials catch a bid, which how low do you really let JP Morgan go before you try and buy it? Then you could see markets really take off. And yeah, it's nice to have stuff that actually matters be the point of discussion.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to that conversation again. Maybe put some Trump tweets to the back burner. Maybe put these this will they, won't they, these Stormy Daniels, all this other nonsense to the side, and just look at some actual numbers for a change. It will certainly be a refreshing change of pace. Let's move on to some commodity vol. I know we're getting into a lot of this. If you like this, listeners, stay tuned for TWIFO in about an hour. We'll have a fun guest on that one, so it should be good. We'll get into a lot of this, but a lot of that there. But of course, the crude vol catching a little bit of a bid this week. Crude's been on the tear so far this week. A lot of various factors driving that. We'll debate that going forward in TWIFO again in about an hour. But OIV, which is of course the VIX of WTI, hovering right around a 29 or so, pretty close to it, which is substantially higher than it has been. It was around the low 20s to mid 20s for the better part of many months. So seeing it around 29, maybe this is the time. People have been asking us for quite some time on the TWIFO show, when is crude vol going to be here to stay? I don't know if this is it, but it's certainly pronounced going into the end of the week here. Gold vol also catching a nice bid, up about 2 handles from where it was this time last week. It was right around 11.5 out there in GVZ, which is the gold VIX, a.k.a. the VIX of GLD, right around 13.5 right now. So about 2 handles higher. If you've been following anything gold vol, listen to any of our shows, read any of our stuff on the site, gold vol has been at or near right around 5-year lows for months. So any sort of bid out there in gold vol, certainly welcome for a lot of you folks out there. And speaking of things that have green on the screen these days, Mr. Meatball, I'm sure you're probably kicking yourself right now that you didn't launch a crypto fund, because crypto just catching a bid yesterday and continuing that love fest into today. We saw Bitcoin futures rallying 1,000 handles yesterday, from below 7,000 to north of 8,000, giving some of that up towards the end of the session. Today, again, they're up another 400 handles. So Bitcoin futures over there at the CBOE up about 80 to 8,100, up about 400 handles there. Let's see how much paper we're doing out there. Pretty active day. Looks like I'm nearly 5,000 contracts on the tape, with actually a decent amount of activity in the second month contract. And it's still predominantly front month, don't get me wrong, but we're doing about 4,100 contracts in the front month, 600 or so in the second month, which is more than we traditionally see out there. So interesting. We'll have to pull up the CME one a little bit later to see how they're doing. I'm guessing it's going to be commensurate volume, but crypto and all the coins catching bids. Looking across the board, they're all getting a lot of love. Some up anywhere from 10 to 30% on the upside. People arguing that it's this approval for effectively, like under Sharia law, you can actually use crypto now, and apparently that's going to open the floodgates to roughly 1 to 2 billion new potential additions to the crypto market. Because we all know once it's approved, all of them are going to start slinging some crypto. So there we go. That apparently is what's driving this mad sell-off, or mad rally, I should say, in all things crypto. Of course, pointing to any sort of real factor that drives anything crypto is a bit of a fool's errand. But c'est la vie, that appears to be what's going on. Mr. Meatball, are you just kicking yourself right now that you didn't really, instead of launching a vol fund, you didn't launch a 100% long crypto fund?
What's funny is what happened to all the crypto funds that I was hearing about. Remember, crypto. Then Bitcoin dies.
I think they all blew out.
Are we going to start hearing? Are we going to start hearing all about crypto again now that it's starting to move again? That's kind of my question. Is what's actually going on here? Are we into crypto, or are we not into crypto? What's the story here?
I don't know. I saw your boy Mr. Catula said at an event not too long ago, and he was saying that they have some crypto action over there at Typhon. So they're deep into it. It seems like.
Yes, they are. But everyone's favorite players that were all over the place, we have not seen as much lately. It's a little strange.
Well, of course, the billionaire Tim Draper coming out today says his personal price target for Bitcoin is $250,000 by 2020. So there you go, Mr. Meatball.
Where's the guy that said he's going to eat his own Johnson? Where was he when this was dropping?
Didn't someone buy a 1-year 50,000 call on Bitcoin too? Not that long. He had a house actually draw that up for him, OTC, and made a bunch of headlines out of it. So he got a lot of good PR out of whatever premium he paid.
What do you think that call cost? Any idea?
Way too much. If it was 1 cent, then it was far too much. But yeah, I don't know these. That'd be a good question to look up exactly what he paid, and it probably is commensurate with the cost of a big PR release. That's pretty much what he did with it. He immediately turned around and said, "Hey, look, I'm an idiot who bought a 50,000 1-year call." I'm sure whatever house he called that sold it to him, they must have been like, "You really, you want to buy this? Okay." I think if you're the house that sold that contract, you'll have a few spots to hedge it between 8,000 and 50,000. I think you'll be okay. Yeah, that one was a little bit of a PR stunt. This $225,000 one, also a bit of a PR stunt. But that's kind of what Bitcoin is a lot these days. There's a lot of trying to separate the real stuff from this kind of nonsense is kind of hard, But still, either way, crypto is loving it, and you guys are loving all things crypto. Speaking of what you guys love, let's get to it with a little bit of your volatility voicemail.
It's time to share your thoughts and opinions with your fellow volatility traders. It's time to check the volatility voicemail. Make your voice heard by dialing 779-669-4VOL, posting a comment on the optionsinsider.com, sending an email to questions@theoptionsinsider.com, or posting your questions to twitter.com/options or facebook.com/theoptionsinsider.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Vol voicemail portion of the show, where you guys take the reins, questions, comments, insights, all that good stuff. We welcome it all. Hit us up. You guys know how to find us via the website feedback form. A lot of you guys like to use that. The email, questions@theoptionsinsider.com. Social media, @options on most of the major platforms. You can use the live chat. You can use our app. No shortage of ways for you guys to make your voices heard to us. Sometimes we flip that script for you guys as well. I like to ask you guys a question or two. Actually, not even this week. This morning, we put out a little fun flash poll for you vol folks out there. We asked you guys, we talked about crypto before, which product or segment do you think will experience the most vol over the coming week? So all the way through next Friday's close on the 20th. You could pick your poison. We gave you 4 categories. Good old S&P 500 vol, a.k.a. VIX. Is that going to have the most change? So actually the VVIX, you'll be watching for that one. But it could be change of vol and SPY or SPX, whatever your poison is out there. Gold, could be GLD, could be your Comex contracts. Whatever you like out there. It could be crude oil, WTI. Maybe some of you like USO. That's a little bit more of a mixed bag, but we won't hold it against you if you like USO. Or Bitcoin. And so far we're about an hour or so into it. Mr. Meatball, it expires at the end of the day, our little flash poll here. Which of these product categories do you think, well, first off, which is your vote? And then B, what do you think our audience is voting for?
It's got to be Bitcoin. Got to be the coin edge.
Yeah, Bitcoin getting some love. 38% saying Bitcoin, 28% saying VIX, a.k.a. S&P 500 vol, going to be the most volatile over the coming week. So interesting for that one there. Crude oil also getting, so actually crude oil and S&P 500 tied. Can't argue with any of those, really. They've all been pretty volatile over the better part of the past week. Crude oil in particular, but Bitcoin has been rally homoed. Only 6% feeling the love for the metals, the gold. It's all crypto all the time. I had a feeling that poll was going to break out that way, but you never know. Getting into your comments here. Oh, it sounds like our buddy Ophir is listening because we were talking about Contango coming back. He says it always comes back, always. Well, yes, it does. And technically, he is correct. I think a lot of people it took a little longer than some people were probably hoping for. So people who have been writing into us saying, where's the Contango? When's it coming back? There you go. Now it's back. So you can be happy. Speaking of Contango and kind of just VIX erosion, Mr. Meatball, our first question comes from Lodes. Maybe I don't know. Let's go to Lodes. He or she asking, what will it take? What will it take to get VIX back into the 15 handle? Oh, probably a bunch of good stuff. Maybe Trump to put away his Twitter machine for a little bit. No more trade war talk. No more war talk. Everyone, no more Stormy Daniels to go away. Comey to go away. Putin and the Russia investigation to go away. All of that would be nice. What do you think it would take to get us back? And actually, where are we right now? Getting second half of the show here. Cash is around 1730, so we're not that far away from this 15 handle. So what do you think it'll take to give us that next push?
Yeah, one more day of this, and I think that they'll get there. We just need to be up green for a couple more days, no more volatility shocks, which it kind of feels like we're getting away from. And I think we're there. I do not think that this is going to be much. I don't think that there's that much of a process. That's kind of the way volatility can move. I think that you've got something here.
Yeah, in fact, speaking of got something, I think I got something on the crystal ball coming up because we're seeing green on the screen now. S&P and the NASDAQ actually up on the day as we're coming into the second latter portion of the show here. So we're hovering right around 17, 20 odd, 20, 25 or so in VIX Cash. So I'm liking what I'm seeing out there, and I'm sure all you Contango fans probably liking that as well. Next up, we got a comment from Jack. He's agreeing with someone who wrote. You're gonna like this, Mr. Meatball, because he's probably taking issue with you. He says, "I'm with the questioner from last week." I think he's referring to, remember, listeners, last week we had a question about how do you figure. Actually, we had a couple of questions about how do you figure out which future, your VIX future, your options are trading off of. And we particularly highlighted, myself and Russell at least, Mr. Meatball was a little bit more dismissive. He said, look at the month, which was kind of funny, but also dismissive. But that said, we were especially acknowledging around the weeklies. That's where it gets a little bit dicey for some people. And he writes in, Jack, saying, I'm with the questioner from last week. It's a huge pain to figure out which VIX future the weekly options are trading on. The CBOE needs to hold more brokers' feet to the fire to surface that stuff much more readily. Well, I'm kind of with you. I did, after those questions came in, I kind of did a bit of a cursory check. We maintain a lot of different accounts, a lot of different brokers. I kind of did a cursory check of how well brokers are out there actually surfacing that stuff. And, obviously the sophisticated platforms like, LiveVol, we use a lot here during the show, LiveVol Pro, they do a good job of really highlighting that so you can see exactly what your options chain, which future it's keying off of. It's all highlighted for you. But some of these, shall we say, less options or derivative specific brokerage firms, the farther away you go from up the rat hole, away from the options and vertical, the less they actually have with that. They'll do the splash warnings for, hey, you're trading VIX options, these are nice, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. They do that, which is good. But they don't surface that information as readily as you would perhaps like, which is something as basic as here's your options chain, maybe at the top or somewhere else, here's the future that these options are pricing off. Just make it clear, So I'm kind of with you, Jack. I think brokers could do much. I don't know if that's on the CBOE. If Russell was here, he'd have to take that position for you. That's not really on the CBOE. I mean, I guess they could try. But that's on the brokers. The brokers should want to make this stuff transparent for you. So, yeah, I'm with you that the brokers could do a better job on that. Mr. Meatball, have you changed your tune at all since last week? Have you looked at how brokers are surfacing this stuff, or do you still think it's pretty straightforward?
I think it's pretty straightforward. Sorry.
Where's that March option? What future is it on, sir? I can't figure it out.
It's a lot of straightforward, in fact.
Look at the month.
I would say it's not even pretty straightforward. It's ugly straightforward.
I think there's some room for nuance in the weeklies. I can see how some people who are new to this stuff.
Yes.
Then you can make the argument though that maybe they shouldn't be trading these things then, because they probably should do a little bit more homework there too. But the weeklies, I think that's where I agree. I'm with you on the serial. That's all easy that's all easy. But you look at the month. But they keep introducing more weeklies all the time, and it gets to be a little bit confusing. Which exact future is this particular weekly queuing off of? So yeah, I'm with you that they should probably make this stuff front and center. And I'm never going to argue for less transparency. More is always better. The more information you guys have in your arsenal, the wheelhouse, the better. Alfred wants to know any updates on TE VIX whistleblower. Well, the TE VIX whistleblower, not really. No, we talked about it a while ago on the show, and all that news broke, and we kind of haven't heard a lot since then. Maybe there is one update I can give you. I think at the time we were saying that it seemed like FINRA was going to do a special investigation into those allegations, maybe set that aside once and for all. I did talk to the CBOE about that a couple of times, and they pretty much said that's not the case. FINRA already oversees their markets on a regular basis anyway. They kind of outsourced a lot of that to FINRA a few years back. They said that's kind of, they're just ongoing their regular process. So there is no special FINRA investigation, which I think might be interesting. just to put all this stuff aside once and for all, have them come in. But I guess the other side of that is that they're looking at it all the time, and so far they haven't raised any red flags. And again, this is not CBOE, this is FINRA, so there is an outside regulator, but it is industry regulator. But still, they have some nuance and some sophistication in this space, so they should be able to at least raise a red flag or two, and they haven't so far. So that's I don't know, Mark. You got any updates out here for Alfred? That's all I got.
No, I got nothing.
You say go check out your futures, and go check the month of your options. That's what you say to Alfred here. I like this. We got some time for some questions today. I like this. Chinggis, he's kind of comment/question. I like that handle. He says, dudes, how about a weekly rundown of the hot VIX ETFs and ETNs? Well, we kind of did that a little bit today. Let's see, what do we hit? We hit SVXY, we hit VXX. That's always the big one. We talked about VVIX, not really a tradable ETN or ETP, but it's a disseminated index. The one we don't talk about that you guys like to trade, which we have mocked roundly, is TVIX. That one still does a lot of paper for I don't know what reason. You guys like it. It was the first VIX ETP to really implode due to fundamental issues with the way it was constructed. And yet people still sling it. It's averaging 46 million shares a day. Notice I didn't say options because there are no options on it, which is primarily why we don't talk about it. But it's at around 862 right now. I don't know, Mr. Meatball, are you like me? Are you as kind of amazed at the persistence of TVIX and the fact that people continue to trade it?
You know what? Now that UVXY changed and doesn't have the exposure anymore, I'm less surprised. I think that's your only, if you really want that high vol exposure, it's really your only option.
Yeah, they're kind of the only game in town now. You're right, but they're not optionable though, which is the annoyance for me. So, Mr. Meatball, if you had to follow along his lines, and you'd like to see us do a little VIX ETP rundown, which ones would you add to the mix?
You know, I don't know. What would you add, Mark?
I think we hit most of the big ones. I mean, we hit SVXY, but that one's kind of fallen off. VXX is clearly the biggest.
There's no individual short now.
Yeah, I mean, SVXY is kind of a pale shadow. UVXY, the same thing. TVIX is, I guess, is back on the radar. I hate to routinely report on TVIX because I have my issues with that one, but yeah, I guess we have to because the people are trading it again. VXX is the biggest game in town. That's why we always talk about that. Outside of that, you get pretty small pretty quick when it comes to, certainly from options volume out there. But I don't know, if you guys have a VIX ETP that you love to sling and that we're not talking about here on the show, hit us up. But I think that in general, that's a good suggestion. I think we try to do a little bit of that today. I think we'll do a little bit more of that in the show. You guys clearly love to sling your ETPs. Saw some data the other day on the equity option side of the fence. Something like 70% of that volume is coming in ETP or ETF products. So you guys clearly like that as your entry point for your options trading. So if you like that in the vol space and we have a name we're not hitting that you like that actually does some options paper, hit us up. We'll include it in our rundown. But I do enjoy quizzing Mr. Meatball every week on his favorite VXX puts position. Let's see. Here's an interesting one. Got questions all over the board. That's why I love you folks out there. You guys really you come from all sides of the spectrum. Elandra asking, if you guys could have your ideal volatility product, what would it be? Wow, that's an interesting one. I might actually cheat, Alondra, and give you two answers, which I don't like doing, but I think it's kind of true. I think for me personally, I would like to see, quite frankly, something maybe along the lines of what our friends over there at Volex have been trying to do for years. Some sort of actual realized vol product would be nice. Right now, all we have is pretty much straddles. It's the only way to do that, and that's a pain. So that would be great to see something like that come to fruition and be able to actually trade realized vol. But I'm going to say my second part of my answer, my caveat, is that I think for a lot of you out there, I guess you probably would choose an actual tradable VIX Cash. I think for a lot of you out there, that would be your ideal vol product. Not because it's perfect, but because in the terms of what you guys actually want, I know from hearing what you guys, whether you know it or not, what you actually want is to be able to trade the VIX Cash. You don't want to mess about with the freaking futures. You don't want to know which future your options are trading off of. You don't want to do any of that crap. You just want to be able to buy and sell the VIX Cash. I think for a lot of you guys out there, that would be your ideal vol product. For me, I think it'd be something realized. I think would be a nice addition to the spectrum. Mr. Meatball, what say you, sir?
Yeah, I would say I was thinking along those lines, like a tradable variance contract or a tradable VIX contract would be really fun to have. A tradable VIX contract would be kind of hard, but a tradable variance contract would be kind of fascinating to have, and that would be really fun. They tried doing these variance swap futures, and they could never get the margining right. But if something like that, if it was successful, would be pretty close to a tradable VIX, and that's probably the more realistic contract to get going. And it's something that would probably fit with the upstairs group. It's something that would, do the things that they need up there. So, I'm all for something that has some usefulness to it. And a variance contract would certainly have that.
There certainly is a lot of utility over there. I know CBOE has been wrestling with some way to bring that listed that OTC variance stuff onto the CFE with varying degrees of success for a long time. So I think the OTC crowd, you're right. Maybe there's a third category there. OTC crowd definitely would love some sort of quality, great variance contract. But I think just let's just live in an imaginary world where you can just snap your fingers and you have a cash VIX that is tradable. Forget about everything else, all the fights we've had about time value, money erosion, and how possible that is to do in real life. Let's just forget about that. Perfect world, snap your fingers. You got a tradable VIX contract. That would just do tons of paper, ridiculous amounts of paper. You wouldn't need a VXX anymore. VIX would do it for you. So yeah, that would be a huge product, I think, to sell. We say huge with a capital H. So I think for a lot of you out there, that would be quite huge, and also quite difficult to do, as we've seen over the years. Many people have tilted at that windmill, and pretty much all of them have come up with nothing. Speaking of nothing, let's wrap up on this last question here. He wants to know, DK Man wants to know, why is there nothing? Why are there no options on TVIX? We were just talking about this. TVIX is first off, it's cheap. It's $8.62. B, it's had some issues, shall we say. So I'm not a huge fan of it, but to each their own. I won't hold it against you. But yeah, there are no options on TVIX. I don't have a clear answer for why that. Mr. Meatball, I'm going to put you in the hot seat. Why did you take away the options on TVIX? Why did you do that?
TVIX isn't TVIX an ETN, not an ETF?
It is an ETN, yes.
And it's a levered ETN. I think the issue is that because it's a levered ETN, you can't do it, as opposed to VVXY, which is a levered ETF. So because it doesn't necessarily have the holdings on, it's just a credit against that. I don't think you can have options on it. I think there were some. It's a technical reason that there are no options, because I know that there was a group that wanted it at some point when Lehman initially launched them. I think that was part of their plan, was to have them, but obviously not the case anymore. Lehman Brothers is less interested in that now.
Yes, not so much love for the TVIX options coming out of the old Lehman folks. But we have love for wrestling with the slippery pig that is VIX Cash. And it is time for the crystal ball.
It's time to peer into the future and reveal what the volatility gods hold in store. It's time to look into the crystal ball.
All right, listeners, welcome to the Crystal Ball, the portion of the show where we attempt to just get a bearing on what the heck the VIX is going to do for the following week. And I do like our subsequent move in VIX. I had a feeling it was going to trend my way, Mr. Meatball intro show, and indeed it did. Right around 17.25 right now in the VIX Cash, and I was at a whopping 17.15 in my prognostication. So a tenth of a point. That's a bullseye in VIX land these days. I'm going to take it. I'm going to take that one. You were number 2, Mr. Meatball. You were at 17.89, so you about six tenths of a hand, a little bit more off there. Still not bad, still respectable. And Mr. Rhodes, once again playing his game from 2017, that Didn't work out well for him at all in 2017, where he was the high man on the totem pole. He was at 19.99, perhaps buying a little more of the trade war than the rest of us were here. So that's why he's on the show. We just disinvited him because his guess was so embarrassing, listener. So there you go. I'm going to take that one, which I will like. And I will take that opportunity to go first because I had to go last week, and I hate that. I always have to squeeze in between other people's votes. So we're at about 17.25, 17.30 right now, listeners, in VIX Cash land. We got earnings coming up next week. Historically, earnings haven't been the huge drivers we've seen, and it's kind of like spitting into the macro wind a lot these days, where, earnings are great, but guess what? Trump said something else crazy, and we're off to the races from a vol perspective. So it'd be nice to see earnings maybe tamp down a little bit on some of this, but I don't know. I'm feeling we're going to be around these levels this time next week, maybe slightly higher. I'm going to say 17 double is where my heart of hearts is ending up here. Mr. Meatball, that leaves a whole spectrum for you, sir. What are you feeling next week?
15.
Wow, you're buying the sell-off, huh?
I am. The last time I saw this kind of vol sale, VIX was at 12 before you could blink.
Can I say it selfishly? I would be quite happy if you were right. If I miss my crystal ball, it's not the worst thing. So I'm hedging myself here. There we go. But I would have a smile on my face either way when it came next week. So there we go. So let's just hope the vol gods are perhaps listening to you, even though, spoiler alert, I think I'm on the right track. But to each their own. You guys got to have your own picks for where you think vol's going to be, listeners. Hit us up. Let us know. You guys can play along too. It's not just for us to embarrass ourselves. You guys can feel free to embarrass yourselves as well. But unfortunately, that music means we've come to the end of the embarrassment period. Indeed, we've come to the end of the entire show. Mr. Meatball and I holding court for a full hour on all things vol views. By the way, I like the suggestion for vol in a vol ETP rundown. I think we'll look into adding something like that. If you guys have suggestions, we've been doing the show for a long time. We'd like it, but if you guys have ideas for things we could add, hit us up. We don't mind hearing that kind of stuff. You have ideas, suggestions, products, categories, different types of vol to talk about, let us know. We're always open, as well as to the endless debate on how to figure out which futures your VIX options are trading on. Mr. Meatball, while you're figuring that out, that very in-depth analysis, what is cooking in the land of all things Carmen line in the pit?
We're stuff with the fun's been kind of fun to do, and at the pit you can just check out our blog and make sure you're following along with everything we're doing.
There you go. Come back to Option Pits. Check out and follow them there at Option Pits on the old Twitters, or indeed follow the Rock Lobster, who's I think actually traveling. He actually left Maine these days, which is a rare occurrence in and of itself. If you guys are listening live, you get a little bit of a hiatus now, a little break. Go get a beverage, go to the bathroom, come back at 1:30 for TWIFO this week in Futures Options. I have a fun guest going to do a deep dive into crude, all the vol that's going on out there. Probably, spoiler, probably a little bit of crypto too, given the way you guys are voting in that poll. Probably hit that as well. So stay tuned for that. Otherwise, we'll see you next week for more of This Week in Futures Options. Or excuse me, wrong show. Volatility Views.
Volatility Views is brought to you by CBOE. CBOE is one of the world's largest exchange holding companies, and we're inspired every day to innovate some of the industry's most powerful products, technology, and solutions. We're the industry's leading force driving access to global markets. A better trading experience and powerful data and analytics to inform better strategies. We're committed to engineering new ways to help our customers realize their potential and navigate the marketplace of tomorrow, today. Visit CBOE.com. That's CBOE.com to learn more about our expanded offerings.
The The preceding program was a production of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.